Absolutely.
Well, good morning. This is Mayor Jackson. We're going to get the SETHRA meeting started. We want to thank Mayor Davis for hosting us this morning virtually. We were supposed to be in Bradley County this morning, and we all wish we could be there. Wish we were under normal times. We're all having to deal with a lot of things that never expect to have to deal with, and wish that all of us are stay healthy and safe during this time. Hopefully we can all make this through it and get back to normal pretty soon. This time I'm going to ask Mayor Gentry if you would do the invocation, please.
Absolutely. If you'll join me, thank goodness that the Lord doesn't need internet or anything like that to hear us. So we're privileged. Heavenly Father, we thank you for being with us this morning, Lord. We acknowledge that none of these things catch you by surprise, Lord. You're master of all things. We ask you to be with us, Lord. Give us some wisdom, Lord. Help us give us the gift of discernment, Lord, what to do in these trying times, Lord. We recognize you're in total control, Lord. Be with the president, Lord. Be with all of his cabinet, Lord. Be with the governor and everyone making difficult decisions, Lord. Be with our citizens as we try to figure out the best thing to do to manage through this. And may, when all this is done, Lord, may you be glorified. Be with us today. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Jennifer, will you call the roll, please? Don't have any volume.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Oh, there we go. All right. Nancy Sutherland.
Here.
Chris Kleehammer. Lynn Roberts.
Here.
Greg Ridley.
Here.
John Gentry.
Here.
George Stacker.
Here.
Gary Davis.
Here.
Keith Cartwright.
Here.
Chad Burris. Michael Brady.
Here.
David Jackson.
Here.
Paul Wayne Evans. Bill James. Philip Cagle. Robbie Catcher.
Here.
Gary Llewellyn. Wayne Land.
He's here.
Ottawa Pelt. Leslie Dell. Jamie Shelton. And Barbara, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher the last name.
Funioli. Funioli.
All right. That's everyone.
I could just interrupt your meeting real quickly. If everyone on their devices, if you could mute your camera or your device until it's time to talk, we're getting a lot of, there we go. So if you just mute that and when you're ready to talk, just unmute your microphone. Thank you.
Okay, we do have enough for a quorum, Jennifer. Okay. All right. Under TCA code 8-44-109C5, we will suspend our normal voting process, and we will be taking a roll call vote on all action we take today. So when we get to voting, Jennifer will be calling your name. And we will also combine several motions. And you can see the executive order there that allows us to do the roll call vote. Each one of y'all have had the minutes sent, emailed to you all. Do I entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the December 10th, 2019 meeting?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Mayor Davis. Do you have a second?
Second, Mayor Gentry.
Mayor Gentry. Roll call vote, Jennifer.
And this is where I say the whole roll call again.
Do the roll call of those that are present.
Okay. Nancy Sutherland.
No, just the board members.
Oh, just the board members, sorry. Greg Ridley. John Gentry,
Yes.
George Thacker,
Yeah.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright,
Yes.
Michael Brady,
Yes.
David Jackson,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
Dwayne Land,
Yes.
and Barbara.
Yes.
Minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is the Finance Committee report, Mayor Gentry.
The Finance Committee met, I think it was by Zoom or teleconference. I can't remember. It's been too far back. On the March 26th, was that last week? And I guess by teleconference. And we had several items to take on. One was a direct appropriations request by the director. And we also had a personal reimbursement request. I'm going to talk about those a little bit later after. I'm going to go ahead and ask Lynn Roberts to do a finance review the financial statements, then I'll address the other two and ask for approval in one motion. So Lynn Roberts, if you're available.
Okay, let me get my mic unmuted. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we hear you, man.
Yes.
Okay, first we will do the balance sheet. All these statements are as of January 31st of this year. If we look at the balance sheet, we see cash flow through January was still pretty healthy. Current ratio, we've hovered around the same ratio all year, between 3.8 and just below 4. It was 3.8 at the beginning of the year, June 30th. And the HRA average is 3.13. That average is based on the latest data from 3 other HRAs. South Central Human Resource Agency, Upper Cumberland, and SETHRA. That's what these averages are based on. And the days in cash, Mayor Jackson, you wanted an update on that. At the beginning of the year, the days in cash was a little over 157 days. That's take the average day's expenses and divide that into the amount of cash, operating cash. June 30th, we were at 157 days in cash. As of January, it dropped to 130, a little over 130 days, and the HRA average is around 38 days.
Okay.
So now if we can pull the schedule of revenues and expenditures up by program, that's it. The two most notable issues on there, notes 1 and 2. The first note, rural transportation through January was showing a deficit of 923,000. The main factor in that is getting our invoices processed by TDOT. We have a new person at TDOT that's just sort of learning, and she's going through the invoices meticulously, and those have sort of turned into more of a negotiation than a submission for reimbursement. At the time, at January 31st, we were still working on getting the November invoice processed. And just to give you a quick little visual here, this is the rural transportation invoice for February.
Oh my goodness.
It's as thick as a fairly good sized city's phone book. And we have to submit documentation for every expense incurred that's on that invoice. And we've been having to go through all of this with the new person, checking and rechecking, helping the new person see where the numbers come from on complicated documentation like the agency phone bill and things like that, and the allocations. So, like I say, as of January 31st, we were still trying to get the November 2019 invoice processed and paid. And we don't like to stack them up with too many invoices at once, because that just further confuses the matter, because each reimbursement request, it's TDOT's form, they have cumulative totals going forward. So at that time, we had December, we had November pending, December and January that hadn't been processed. December and January hadn't been submitted yet, because we were still waiting on trying to get November's processed. And we had, bottom line is, we had about $870,000 worth of reimbursement requests that hadn't been submitted at that time. Those have since been submitted, and we're working through getting those processed and paid. So there is revenue to cover that deficit. It's just a slow process. It's been a slow process so far this year, getting that, getting those paid. The next item, the Cleveland Urban Area Transit System. We were having to go back and pull expenses from previous grants to close those out. At that time, we had about $79,000 in invoices pending on that, which has subsequently been submitted. And we were able to use money from a previous grant to recapture some expenses and close that grant out. So we're okay with revenue in the Cleveland Urban Area Transit System. There was just some delays in getting those invoices processed. The other item, the Choices Program, note number 3, that revenue is recognized more so on the cash basis. The insurance reimbursements, which means we recognize the revenue when we receive the cash, and that's been lagging. The other note, the Child Care Food Homes Program, that deficit was due to an error in the state's data entry error in the state's database, and we've negotiated with them, and they're refusing to allow some expenditures there. Another notable item in rural transportation, quite a few bus purchases have been made this year, and that $248,000 total in the program capital match represents SETHRA's expenses that we are matching the bus purchases with. That also has contributed to the deficit. Does anybody have any questions over anything we've looked at so far?
Hey, Lynn, have the human resource agencies across the state kind of voiced a unified concern on this reimbursement issue? I mean, that's a lot of money to be fronting.
Right. I'm sure that there has been quite a bit of going back and forth with all of them. There always is when this is sort of a common occurrence. State agencies have turnover, and a new person comes in and is trying to learn and so forth, and reimbursements get delayed. And generally, as a whole, the HRAs voice their concern over that. I haven't spoken with any directly that have, but I'm quite sure that's the case. If there's no other questions on that, we can move to the agency-wide income statement. That's it. And again, as of January 31st, we would be looking at, if everything stayed on average and flat, we would be looking at 58% of the budget year spent. So that's sort of the target through January. Uh, Again, a few items that are big one-time payments, the agency insurance, that's a big payment for the total agency insurance premium at the beginning of the year. That skews that percentage high. Repair and maintenance vehicle, that's due to sort of a combination of under budgeting because of an aging fleet, which hopefully some of these bus purchases will take care of. Be less repair and maintenance. And the other things, the dues and memberships, again, one-time payments in the year that skew the percentages, and client benefits. That's a lot of times that's skewed by our LIHEAP program, which is a little bit dependent on the weather. There are spikes throughout the year. And this statement is divided into two sections: operating up at the top, showing operating deficit of $532,000, and then the bus purchases, which I have another schedule coming up to purchases. Down in the midsection shows that, and that's the $248,000 there, which represents SETHRA's match, and the total deficit of $791,000, which ties to the previous schedule. And we can see what effect that has on the fund balance, going from 8.7 million at the beginning of the year to 7.9 million as of January 31st, which ties to the operating fund balance on the balance sheet that we looked at previously. Okay, a supplemental schedule to this is the capital outlay schedule. And that shows the bus purchases year to date. A purchase of 8 buses, 8, 16, and 9 other buses. All but 3 were at the same price. 3 were a little bit higher, and shows our capital outlay, the total expense, what we got back in revenue from the grants, and our match portion, which ties back to the income statement we just looked at. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the income statement? Okay. If there are none, we can go on to where we single out the agency admin costs. And again, we're looking at the target of 58% through the year. Everything looks decent there. So we're looking at a total of 56.51% of the budget spent through January. That's 1.8% under. And the percentage of admin costs to agency expenditures year to date is 4.58. And if we look back at the ratios at the beginning of the year, that percentage of admin to expenses was 4.19. The HRA average is 6.26, and now we are at the 4.58%. Does anyone have any questions or comments on anything?
Can't hear me.
Thank you, Lynn.
It's okay.
Any questions, anybody? Mr. Gentry.
Yeah, we have a few other items, and then one was dealing with direct appropriation. These are monies that have to be spent by June 30th. The director presented us with several different options. The money totaled about $146,000. One of the projects was to replace the roof at the Marion County office, and also a project to update the restrooms there, and then some new furniture in Dunlap, and then update the motor pool. Nancy, can you hear me? Can you speak? I wanted you to just kind of bring the rest of the board up to date on what exactly the direct appropriation funds are, so they'll know exactly what pool of money we're talking about.
Okay. Every year, because we are an HRA and a community action agency, we get direct appropriations from the Department of Human Services. That money, that amount is $145,890. And up until last year, we did not have to document the expenditures of that money. For 2018, we were able to use the loss at the STS program as the expense for the direct appropriations. Since we don't have that any longer, we need to have a better plan of how we're going to use the appropriations. So what we did is we kind of identified the things that needed to be done, the things that we would like to be done, and proposed to the Finance Committee. We have a leak in the Marion County office that we've tried several times to fix, and we just can't fix it. So the request was to go ahead and put a new roof on that building. We do not have compliant restrooms in that building. So we need to, at some point, we need to consider putting ADA compliant restrooms there. We have a motor pool that the different programs are able to check out a vehicle, and their program pays the agency for the mileage. Those vehicles are getting extremely old, and according to the mechanics, we can no longer get good factory parts on those. So the repairs that they're doing don't last anytime. So at some point, we would like to consider purchasing new vehicles. I wanted to ask for approval to at least do the roof in Marion County, but then kind of have a contingency plan, because our next meeting isn't going to be until June 23rd, and I'm afraid that we will not have enough time between June 23rd and June 30th to spend the balance of that money.
Right. And we've got a motion that'll be coming from the Finance Committee to kind of do a strategy on that. But while you're going ahead and speaking, the other item that we're going to ask for action on and roll it up into one motion so we don't have to do so many roll calls is a personal reimbursement request by Nancy due to having to reschedule a vacation that was she was left with some cost on due to some court dates. So if you want to go ahead and just briefly bring the entire board up to what that request is, so when we make that part of the motion, they'll know what that is talking about, referring to.
Okay. In February of last year, I purchased airline tickets for a vacation last September, and we were supposed to be going to court in March. About 3 days after I purchased the airline tickets, the court date was postponed. Then I waited until June to purchase. I knew that it was going to be postponed. I waited until June to try to figure out what we were going to do, because they said that the court date had been put to the Monday after I was leaving for vacation on Saturday. So in June, I purchased a ticket, a one-way ticket for me to leave on Wednesday after court should have been finished. In August, they canceled that court date and we went into mediation. So ultimately, I ended up with an airline ticket of $267 that I could not use, and it was all related to the court dates being put off or canceled.
And the Finance Committee asked for, we approved the spirit of it, but we wanted to get some kind of guidance, and there's fine letter of the law or spirit of the law as far as what the auditors can provide as far as guidance. But I believe you did end up speaking with our auditor on that, and what was their quote unquote advice or guidance?
They did not want to give us anything in writing, but Lynn and I were on a call with Jason and Weston at HHM yesterday. They both agreed that it was not, there was no reason not to reimburse the expense, but that it did not need to be charged out to any grant. So we would not be putting it into our admin cost allocation. We would take it out of our
Local.
restricted local funds.
Okay, let's do that. Okay. All right, thank you for that. So when the Finance Committee met, they reviewed the financial statements, the personal reimbursement request, and also the direct appropriations request. Kind of due to the situations going on with COVID-19 and not knowing what SETHRA would need to do to step up to help the 10 counties. The motion was made that to go forward with the replacement of the roof of the Marion County office, but then ask the board for approval for the finance committee to have some direction over the remaining portion of that money over the next couple of months, so we don't get too much of a bind on that June 30th deadline, but still give us a little bit of breathing room maybe through April and first part of May to see if we need to do something extra to help our counties and communities address the virus. So that's part of the motion. Also, the motion was to approve the financial statement that's presented and to allow the reimbursement of 267 through local funds due to the circumstances presented by the lawsuit as representing that no fault of the director. So that comes in the form of a motion from the finance committee.
Thank you, Mayor Ginger. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mayor Davis. Any questions or comments? With none, Ms. Jennifer, will you call roll, please?
Greg Ridley,
Yes.
John Gentry,
Yes.
George Thacker,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright,
Yes.
Michael Brady,
Yes.
David Jackson,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
Dwayne Land, and Barbara.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is Resolution 02-2020. Ms. Nancy.
Resolution 2, 2020 is going to allow me to enter into contract on behalf of the agency. And we just need a resolution on the books to go along with, to be presented to different funders when they request.
You've heard the request from our director, Ms. Nancy. Do I hear a motion to approve this? Well, let's just do all the resolutions in one. Let's do that, okay? Next will be Resolution 03-2020.
03, the bank is requiring us to provide them some kind of documentation that the board has approved, that the chairman and the executive directory, excuse me, the executive directory have the signature authority to put on our checks.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion to pass both resolutions?
Motion to approve, Cartwright.
Motion to have a second.
Second.
Gentry. Any comments or discussion? Okay, Ms. Jennifer, you take roll call, please.
Greg Ridley,
Yes.
John Gentry,
Yes.
George Thacker,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright,
Yes.
Michael Brady, David Jackson,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
Dwayne Land, and Barbara.
Yes.
Mayor
Thank you.
Jackson, I think Mayor James has also joined the meeting.
Mayor James, you there?
Hello.
Hey, Mayor James.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay. I voted yes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor James.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, that motion passes. Next thing on the agenda is the COVID-19 employment special request. Ms. Nancy.
On March 19th, I sent a letter out. It was aimed more at the drivers and the aides because those are the two positions that were coming, that just the sheer nature of their job, they were coming into contact with the general public. And they were really voicing concerns about their own safety and what they might be taking into their homes. And so I put a letter out to staff and gave them 3 options. And one of them was that they could take their PTO when special going on. One was that they could take an unpaid leave. They would remain a employee of the agency, but I would like to offer the opportunity that if they take an unpaid leave, that we would go ahead and pay our portion of their health insurance. They would have to pay their portion of the health insurance. They would be able to retain their seniority and even possibly, or even be able to continue to accumulate their PTO. The last option was that they would be able to take a layoff. They would no longer be an employee of the agency, but when everything came back around, that they would be able to come back to the agency with their seniority. So what I'm asking today is, would you approve for those that are willing to take an unpaid leave, for us to continue to pay their insurance, that they would be able to continue to accrue their PTO, and that they would be able to keep their seniority. And then the second one would be if they took a layoff, when and if we brought them back, they would be able to bring their seniority back with them.
Okay, y'all heard the recommendation from Ms. Nancy. Any questions or thoughts before we call for a motion? Okay, hearing none. Do I hear a motion to approve Nancy, our director's recommendation on the employees' medical insurance, and if they take a layoff unpaid, being rehired, maintain the seniority? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion, Ridley.
Motion by Mayor Ridley. Do I have a second?
Hey, Nancy, how many employees we looking at here?
Right now we have had, I want to say, last I heard, there was maybe 4 drivers that had either gone out on PTO or that had taken a leave of absence. We have seen a drastic decline in trips effective yesterday. So the initial memo was about their fear and their safety. We are getting to the point where we have to talk about the livelihood of them being able to stay here versus being laid off. So right now, we have less than 10 that this is going to be applying to. But the more that the governor's on, and the more that the mayors are talking in the communities, I think that we'll see more drivers getting more and more leery of driving this general public. Did I answer your question, Mayor?
Yeah, it's just a different day and time we're dealing with this.
Yes. And I was just trying to think, because these are individuals that are, when they come on working for us, if they come full time, they're only making $10.21 an hour. So I thought the least that we might be able to do is to at least pay for their health insurance, so they didn't lose that. And the seniority has been a problem in the past, where we have laid somebody off and then brought them back maybe 6 weeks later, and they came back and lost all of that previous time. And so, you know, if we could just help them keep their seniority, help them keep their insurance, and then if we continue to let them accrue PTO, that's fine. If we don't, that's fine.
Do we have I think I'd be a little bit more comfortable with it if we had at least right now an end date in sight, or just a date out there to say, hey, until June 1st, so we revisit, or something like that. Just
okay.
Took a booking on it, at least for right now. We can remove it.
So I can put another letter out today to them, and I guess based on the information that I heard this morning, we might need to put it out at least until June 1st.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
All right, with Mayor Ridley, will you amend your motion out to June 1st?
Sure.
Okay, a motion and a second. All right, Ms. Jennifer, roll call vote on that, please.
All right. Greg Ridley,
Yes.
John Gentry,
Yes.
George Thacker,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright, Michael Brady, David Jackson,
Yes.
Bill James,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
Dwayne Land, and Barbara.
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, next thing on the agenda is programs update. Chris Kleehammer.
Good morning, everyone. Just to follow up on some of the activity regarding COVID. Prior to, say, the week of March 16th, our transportation trips had hardly dropped off at all. That's when we really noticed on starting about Monday or Tuesday of the March 16th or 17th. They kept dropping off every day, and they continue to. So for the week of March 16th, we were at about 82% of our trips. Last week, the week that ended on the 27th, we're now at about 52% of our normal trip rate, and it just keeps going down. So right now, we have not put any limits on our trips. Most of these are just people choosing not to ride, whether they're canceling their own appointments or perhaps their doctor's offices are canceling for them, or putting more structure on that. But in any case, right now, we have not had to reduce trips ourselves. They're just going down. What we've done to help our drivers as far as their personal protection, we've have Lysol wipes on all the buses. We are wiping down all high-touch surfaces like the handrails getting onto the bus, the grips on the back of the chairs, the fare boxes. If drivers are assisting clients in mobility devices, anything where we're touching their property, our drivers have gloves put on and dispose of. At the end of the day, we're doing extra precautions on cleaning the bus. We don't have an ability to get any masks for drivers. I'm sure, as all of you know, that those are high demand, and it's unclear how effective they are if you don't have the COVID as well. But in any case, our trips are going down. Our driver ability to, the number of drivers that we have to staff our trips so far has been adequate. In fact, we have probably more driver hours than trip need right now. I think as more cases become available, especially cases in our counties, we'll probably see our drivers choosing not to drive. We may have to put in trip restrictions at that point. For our community corrections and misdemeanor probation, we have reduced or stopped face-to-face contacts. Tennessee Department of Correction has given us some guidance on that, where we do as many virtual FaceTime calls as we can, phone calls, our home visits. Our staff is still required to go out to do a home visit, but they just kind of pull into the driveway, honk their horn, and the person comes out. So there's quite a bit of reduction in the face-to-face contacts there. Any questions on the transportation or community corrections reports?
Hey, Chris, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I know you were talking about the hours going down and the load. I have a couple of clients that have medical transportations. One of them called me and she was just in tears. She goes to dialysis. She sat at her dialysis after she had dialysis for 3 hours. She's on a transportation bus with individuals that are going to Walmart, they're going to Dollar Tree and all these other places. And she, you know, with her current medical condition, if she gets the COVID, it could be fatal for her. I was wondering, I mean, we're supposed to serve the people. Is there any way that we can make some kind of scheduling arrangements around these individuals that have a compromised immune system, if they're going for medical treatment, and kind of put those on a priority above maybe some of those that are going to Walmart, especially with these reduced hours that you're talking about?
I'm sure that we can look into that. If there are individuals that would prefer not to ride in a shared ride environment, we can see what we can do. I know that we don't have this.
I brought this up before, and that was the same answer that I got last time. And this lady called me. She was in tears. I mean, that's what we're about, is to serve these people. And with that, seem like that medical condition, especially for those folks. I mean, 3 hours of dialysis, you know, waiting 3 hours after a dialysis, you know, they're give out to begin with. So would you please look into that? And because that is, I mean.
Mayor Brady,
yes.
we looked at her trip yesterday, and she was on the bus by herself.
Then why did she have to wait 3 hours for somebody to pick her up?
I'm sorry I didn't bring the paper with me, but I don't know what time I picked her up. Well, I can call you back with that later. But we picked her up, and it was 25.2 something miles from dialysis to her home. It was a 46 or 48 minute drive from McMinnville to her home. So, and there was nobody else on the bus. So I just want to let you know that we think that her calling you may have been from an experience in the past, and that she's just fearful right now, which absolutely we understand.
Oh, absolutely.
As of yesterday, there was nobody on the bus with her.
She called me, and she said that they was individuals that they had took to Walmart and Dollar Tree. Maybe this is prior to her arriving at her dialysis. But then she said that she actually had waited 3 hours before they came to pick her back up. And she said even her nurse asked, why are you having to stay here so long? So, I mean, I'm going a lot by what she told me, but the lady was in tears. And I said that I would do everything that I could to find out, and said there's some way that we might be able to correct that. So
we will definitely see what we can do, but I'll also look at the trip information, the one that we had just yesterday or on Friday and yesterday, and see if there is other people on that bus going and coming. Okay.
Okay.
Chris, anything else?
That's it for me, unless there are other questions.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mayor Brady. Ms. Nancy, Community Services.
In our CSBG program, we just signed a contract for additional funds. That money should be, I got the signed contract back from DHS yesterday. We are in the process of amending our community action plan. This will allow us to, right now CSBG is divided into elderly and disabled, emergency, and then those that are work abled. This will allow us to put the emergency money into the emergency and help with rent and utilities for those people that have just gotten laid off. There's also part of the stimulus package that the president signed. There will be additional SBG related funds that come down that will actually increase the federal poverty level. So we'll be able to assist individuals up to the 200% of federal poverty level. What that will do is it will help the people that are working poor, that are above the 125%, which is CSBG's limit. We'll be able to help those individuals. We don't know when that money is going to come down, but it should be coming out fairly quick. The other thing that they're talking about is the possibility of a repeat of the ARA funds. And please say a prayer for us if that comes down, because that's hard, but we won't know about that until later. But we should have funds coming in pretty soon for to help with rent and utility. All of our LIHEAP has gone to strictly paper applications. We are no longer seeing clients face to face, and everything's coming into this office, and that we have 2 ladies that are processing LIHEAP applications. We have additional funds coming in for LIHEAP in the near future, but I don't know if they're going to relax the regulations if you can only have it 1 time a year or increase income limits. We don't have those details yet. So inside the community services, those are the only 2 programs that we have anything to really report on.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Nancy. Executive report.
I will make this quick. We are in the middle of our sunset review by the comptroller's office. The comptroller's office is working remotely. 95% of our office staff in Dunlap are working remotely, but we are able to respond to their request. During their initial interview with me, one of their focuses was the board attendance. And so I don't know if they're going to scrutinize the board meetings strictly, but we do expect them to have some kind of comments about the board attendance and our board meetings. As I said, we have moved most of our staff to home that were able to work from home. We've got 3 individuals that are still in the Dunlap office working because they don't have internet access at home. If it gets to that they need to be at home, we have some tablets that we put on the buses that we can activate hotspots for them. And they would, at that point, they would have internet if they were willing to work from home. Our technology is not the absolute most current, but I've been very pleased to find out that we can absolutely be operational from home. We have not seen a huge demand in people calling for emergency as far as help with rent, help with utilities. That hasn't happened yet. It will, but it hasn't happened yet. What we have seen are the working individuals that were receiving rental assistance. When they started getting laid off, they immediately called us, and we have had an increase in the request. Have a change of income, they have to report it to us, and then we have to adjust our portion of the rent. We don't know what that dollar amount is going to look like until after tomorrow when we do rent roll. The other program that we have has a potential to have an impact is our child food program. We won't know until after the first part of next week how that is going to be impacted. That's where we reimburse the daycare centers for healthy meals inside the center. If their children aren't in the daycare, then we're not feeding, so we're not going to be reimbursed. In Dunlap, we've got one child care that chose to close with the same system as the school. So you've got a whole daycare that is not providing any meals to children. I think that outside of that, everybody else is functioning fine. The staff don't like being at home, but we are operating and we're getting the work done. We did have a meeting, a conference call yesterday between SETHRA, CARTA, and representatives of the FTA. And we are moving forward with a conversation about selling the STS building. Right now, we need to provide to FTA a formal letter requesting the grantee to grantee transfer, along with the board meeting minutes where the board approved the sale of that building. And then CARTA will have to do the same thing. What I sensed yesterday, and Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I sensed yesterday is that CARTA Carta may be a little bit hesitant paying us that full amount in one payment because, of course, they're being hit with lack of ridership and stuff too. So the agreed dollar amount that we gave them was $103,572. So we may have to come back and ask the board if they would approve for them to make payments over 2 or 3 years, something like that. But the conversation is moving forward. FTA has given us the proper guidance. The only hiccup that kind of was thrown at us yesterday is there's a possibility that we will have to do an appraisal on the building, not the property, but the building. And they implied that we might be able to have access to a TDOT appraiser out of Region 2. So if that becomes a necessity, I'll reach out to Region 2 and see if they would provide us with a appraiser at a reasonable cost.
Anything else, Miss Nancy?
No, sir, that's all.
Any questions by any of the board members? Okay, we will take a motion to adjourn this meeting, and then the development district meeting will start in about 7 to 8 minutes. So do I hear a motion, we adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote right there.
All right, we've got Greg Ridley,
Yes.
John Gentry,
Here.
George Stacker,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright,
Yes.
Michael Brady,
Yes.
David Jackson,
Yes.
Bill James,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
Dwayne Land, and Barbara.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, and we'll be back with Chairman Davis for the Development District in just a few minutes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hey, Chad, are you there?
I'm here.
Why do you keep telling me to unmute my mic?
Oh, I have been unmuting and muting some during the thing. We keep getting a lot of noise on the end, and so I'm trying to mute as many as I can so that we
Well,
don't
what I
get
was saying is I
noise.
was muted, but it comes on and says unmuted.
No, it will. If you mute yourself, I cannot unmute you, but I can mute and unmute the group as a whole.
You're still not understanding my question. I have it muted like you told me, but it comes on the screen and tells me to unmute it.
Okay, I've done that when we've gotten close to time to doing a vote or when somebody calls for a question.
I'm okay to be muted then.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Chad,
Yes, ma'am.
are you have you brought other staff in?
There's no one in the waiting room, but it looks like a good majority of our staff that was going to be on is on now.
Okay, what about, is Chris Grant on?
She is.
Okay, good. I can't see, even with gallery view, I can't.
Okay, we have Jolly, Don, Chris, Michelle.
Okay, good. And guys, before we get started, the mayors have a call with the governor at noon. So we are gonna roll quickly. So just very, very brief remarks, and we may have to follow up later with additional information.
That's two.
Okay, are we there, Beth?
We are.
Gosh, I don't like it when he goes big. I try not to sit so close. I assume everyone's back, right?
I believe so. We'll see when Keith does roll call.
All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order, declare the meeting that's being held remotely via the internet in conjunction with the governor's executive order. And at this time, I'd like to call Mayor Brady, if he's back, to deliver the invocation. Is Mayor Brady back?
Chad, do you see him?
I see him. Mayor Brady, could you unmute your microphone?
I think I have. Can you hear me?
Okay. Could you give an invocation, Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Dear precious and eternal Heavenly Father, dear Lord, as we come to you this day, dear Lord, we just ask, dear Lord, that you bless this meeting, dear Lord, that you grant us the wisdom, dear Lord, during this time, dear Lord, and know that you are the creator of everything, dear Lord. And dear Lord, just if anything's accomplished today, let it be for your glory, dear Lord. We ask this in your Son's precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mayor Brady. Chad, do you have some navigational instructions that you would like to give us that we might not have gotten a while ago?
Yes, sir. Just real quickly, I apologize for the muting, unmuting on the last call. We do get some noise on our end a little bit. I'm able to see where that's coming from, so I've been going down the list. But one thing, if you could just familiarize yourself real quickly with whatever device you're using. If you see the microphone button, if you would just please mute yourself, and then when you're ready to speak or when we're ready to take a vote, if you could unmute yourself, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, there is a chat box. So if you look on your device for either the chat icon or maybe it's under some settings at the top of your phone screen, if you'd like to type a chat for the group or to ask a question while the meeting is going on, you can do that. And then we will see that on our end and try to get back to that question. But this is a new format for all of us. So if you just do your part to mute and unmute yourself, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Cartwright, roll call.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can everybody hear me?
I believe so. Now you went silent.
Can you hear me?
We
Yeah.
can
Yes, we can hear you now.
hear
All
you.
right. All right. I think I've got it figured out. Thank you. All right. The roll call. Greg Ridley,
Here.
Gary Davis,
Here.
Michael Brady. Michael Brady, I know you're here. Jim Coppinger.
Dan Sade representing.
Okay, Dan. David Jackson.
Here.
John Gentry.
Present.
Bill James. Coach James. Coach James. I'm here. I just can't get on. You got it. I got you. Robbie Hatchett.
Here.
Right. George Thacker. George Thacker. Philip Cagle. Kevin Brooks.
They didn't say.
Kevin Brooks. Kelly Gibbs. Andy Burke. Mayor Burke. Mark Myers.
Mayor Burke. Sharita's here on behalf of Mayor Burke.
Okay, Sharita, okay. Mark Myers. Chuck Burris. Jeremy Bivens. Doug Collins.
Here.
Gary Lou Allen. Dwayne Land.
Here.
Ted Rumley. Stephen Henry. Shannon Whitfield. Alex Case. Senator Bo Watson. Senator Mike Bell. Representative Ron Travis. Commissioner Warren Mackey. Councilman Erskine Oglesby. Okay, we have a quorum.
Keith, Mayor Thacker is here. For some reason, we can't hear him, but he's sent me a text. He's
All right,
online.
I've got him down.
All right, Beth. Thank you, Keith. Quorum's been declared. A reminder, we will be taking a roll call on all votes today. Everyone should have received their minutes. They were previously emailed out. Do we have any additions or corrections? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a
Doug
second?
Collins.
Doug Collins made a motion. To have a second to approve the minutes?
I second.
Okay, call the roll.
Ridley. Greg
Yes.
Ridley.
Yes.
Gary Davis.
Yes.
Michael Brady. Jim Coppinger.
Yes.
David Jackson.
Yes.
John Gentry.
Yes.
Bill James.
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher.
Yes.
George Thacker.
Yes.
Keith Cartwright, yes. Philip Cagle. I'm sorry, Philip's not here. Andy Burke. Mayor Burke.
That's a yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Doug Collins
Yes.
and Dwayne Land.
Yes.
All right. Motion approved.
Okay, motion passes. We'll move on to the administrative reports, and I'd like to call on Finance Chairman John Gentry for review.
Thank you. We have, I guess that's going to go on the shared screen, the January financial reports. So ending January 2020, total assets of $13,146,372 against total liabilities of $2,560,132, or $281,553 of expenses in excess of revenues. On your consolidated statement of revenues and expenses, we're at 7 out of the 12 months, or 58% of the fiscal year. Revenues are lagging behind at 51%. If you look down to line item number 22, it's the total operating expense. We're also at 51%, or $569,679 below budget. All expenses are within the budget, except the usual suspects of insurance, dues, and subscriptions seem to be the ones we talk about, the way that they're paid, usually all the beginning of the year in lump sum. On your summarized revenues and expenses by departments, the administrative overhead is running at 5.44%. And we have an ending cash balance of $3,901,549. Any questions on the January statements? I know these kind of quick. We'll go to the February 2020 statement. Total assets, $13,759,518 against total liabilities of $2,641,470, or $250,255 of revenue in excess of expenses. On your consolidated statement of revenues and expenses, at end of February would be 8 out of 12 months, or 67% of the fiscal year. Revenues lagging a little behind at 62%. Again, going down to the same line item number 22, total operating expenses, which are coming in at 58%, or $650,483 below budget. Line items exceeding the budget this time are travel, conference, and meetings, and I'm assuming that will not go over anytime again the rest of the year, as we probably won't have much traveling going forward. On your summarized statements by department, we are running overhead at 5.34. Your summary of cash flow, which includes your loan fund balances, we have an ending cash balance of $4,267,535. We have a net surplus of revenues attributed to $616,000 donation to the Southeast Foundation, and this is restricted to the completion of renovations in the South Cumberland Learning and Resource Center located in Tracy City. Also, $159,294 in loan loss revenues and TASSER revenue milestone 2A through 2C. I don't know what that means, Beth. You'll have to explain that later. $28,832. And the adjusted statement is actually $179,619 of expenses in excess of revenue. Jolly, I know you're on there. I saw you earlier. Any questions? I'm going to defer to you virtually. So
Sure. We just didn't want you all to get too excited about the surplus of revenues. Again, we will do some budget amendments later in the year, obviously, before we spend the $616,000 anonymous donation. You all will have to amend the budget before we can spend that out. But it has been deposited in the bank. So the TASER thing is simply an accrual and being able to bill in accordance with getting the school information. Obviously, the closing of the schools has made it even more difficult to get the school information than before. It's always been difficult. It's not a top priority with the school systems, but your adjusted statement is $179,000 of expenses in excess of revenues, which is pretty typical for this time of year.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Gentry. Moving on the agenda, Retire Tennessee. I think you have in front of you a budget request summary, Hamilton County. They've asked the Tourism Association to staff Retire Tennessee for next year. Before we go further, Beth, how is it staffed before? What's that? What are we changing here?
It was at the Chattanooga Convention and Visitors Bureau, and then they did a strategic plan this past year and decided that they were no longer going to lend staff to the initiative. So it kind of got caught in no man's land, and the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development came to the district and asked us to step up, which we did this past year. And we've been doing that with a contract employee. Lee McClure has staffed that component this past year. We said we would do it with y'all's approval for the 1 year, but we would look at our cost, and that going forward, if the county wanted us to continue to do it, then they would have to provide the additional cost. So that is the budgeted cost to do that initiative in 2021. It's $17,500, and they've asked us to amend the budget request that is based on our dues assessment to include that amount. So their request would go to $93,157.23, and their process requires that the board approve the chairman making that request.
So because that organization in Chattanooga is no longer doing it, and we can no longer do it free, the cost is going up for us, and that's being passed on as an assessment.
Correct.
For local governments.
That is correct. Passing it directly back to Hamilton County to cover that. And she is also including regional information. So we do get to market the cultural heritage tourism sites throughout the region as well.
Beth, how many counties are actually in the Retire Tennessee program? I know we've looked at it, but
I think it's probably only about 16. I haven't looked at that in a while, and I'm going to be
in Southeast Tennessee besides Hamilton.
No one in Southeast Tennessee besides Hamilton, because you have to meet certain criteria. It's a process that you go through. The program, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with the program after COVID-19, but the program actually needs Hamilton County, probably more than Hamilton County needs the program. There are more inquiries that come from all of the trade shows they do about the Chattanooga region as a whole than anywhere else in the state.
I know sometimes it's hard to gauge the success of that program.
That is correct. It's hard to track who actually relocates. We can track it with increased number of inquiries about things to do and see throughout all of Southeast Tennessee immediately following a lot of the trade shows.
So I guess we need a motion to approve this budget change this budget?
Yes, sir. A motion and a second. Yes, sir.
So moved, Gary.
And the
This morning.
financial,
Well, what about the holiday schedule as well?
we
Ben?
can include that as well. Yes,
Let's wrap it all up.
good deal.
Except I agree with the holiday schedule. I don't agree with picking up.
Okay, let's separate out, Chairman.
I may be the only one, but anyway, it's up to you.
Mayor, let me maybe clarify again. Hamilton County is asking us to do Retire Tennessee. We are passing the entire cost of doing that back to them in their assessment. No other local government is going to be participating in that assessment.
So it's only increasing Hamilton County.
That is correct. I want to make sure you understood that.
Well, I'm glad you straightened it out because that's not the way I was reading it. But yeah, that's good. Okay, if it's only for them, I know they have a representative here, or they don't, but that's as it should be, I think. So a motion to approve this budget amendment along with the holiday calendar. Do I have a motion?
You want to include the financials as well, Chairman?
And accept the financials, would that be correct terminology?
Yes, sir. That would be as presented.
Is the holiday schedule changing?
No, it's the same, just
No,
with the
sir, it's the same.
just changing the dates to meet the calendar for next year.
Okay.
So a motion to accept the financials, to approve this budget amendment for Hamilton County, and also to accept the holiday schedule for next year.
I'll make that motion. Ridley.
Ridley, do I have a second?
Thacker.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thacker. All those, I guess, call the roll. Thank you.
Greg Ridley,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Michael Brady. Michael Brady. Mayor Brady. Jim Coppinger,
Yes.
David Jackson,
Yes.
John Gentry,
Yes.
Bill James,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
George Thacker.
Yes.
Yes, Keith Cartwright, Andy Burke,
Yes.
Doug Collins,
Yes.
Dwayne Land. Okay, hearing none from others, motion approved.
Okay, motion passes. Next, we will review our standard annual resolutions that we do each year. Resolutions 1, 2, and 3 that authorize the executive director to submit application and sets local government assessments at 21 cents per capita. It's resolutions 2020-1, -2, and -3. Any reason why we can't do them all three? Do all three of them together, Beth? Is that okay?
That is how we have the roll call vote. Yes, sir, unless somebody has an objection.
Okay, a motion to approve resolutions 1, 2, and 3.
Motion made, James.
Second.
Ridley.
Okay, roll call.
Greg Ridley,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Michael Brady, Jim Coppinger,
Yes.
David Jackson,
Yes.
John Gentry,
Yes.
Bill James,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
George Thacker,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright, yes. Andy Burke,
Yes.
Doug Collins,
Yes.
Dwayne Land.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Chris Grant, Director of Aging and Disability.
Yes, this is, am I looking at the right resolution here? This is for our area plan update that we do every year. We've been working on that. You have a highlights in the packet that was emailed out to you. It just reviews, we just did a review of some of the increases that we received for FY21. Of course, this does not include any of the increases that are coming along related to COVID-19. We've got a couple of other funding that will be coming through. So unless there are any questions, the report in your packet covers the highlights of the area plan.
Okay, Chris, thank you. Resolution number 4, to have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Ridley.
Jackson.
okay, roll call.
Greg Ridley,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Michael Brady,
Yes.
Jim Coppinger,
Yes.
David Jackson,
Yes.
John Gentry,
Yes.
Coach James,
Yes.
Bobby Hatcher,
Yes.
George Thacker,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright, yes. Andy Burke,
Yes.
Doug Collins,
Yes.
Dwayne Land. Motion carries.
Okay, that motion passes. Resolution 5 authorizes submission of a rural community development initiative application for $250,000 and commits matching funds of $250,000. Do I have a motion to approve? We'll get discussion after we get a motion if we have one.
So moved, Mayor Jackson.
Okay, second.
Second, Mary James.
Okay, any questions, comments you need to ask Beth?
Just briefly, rural development has encouraged us to apply for this grant. It actually just would give us additional funding for community and economic development staff, and we would use your local assessments to match the funding. It's a 3-year grant over a 3-year period. So it would just help to pay for our capacity.
All right, any questions of Beth? If not, we need a roll call vote on resolution number 5. Thank you.
Greg Ridley,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Michael Brady,
Yes.
Jim Coppinger,
Yes.
David Jackson,
Yes.
John Gentry,
Yes.
Bill James,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
George Thacker,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright, yes. Andy Burke,
Yes.
Doug Collins,
Yes.
Dwayne Land.
Okay, I didn't hear you there, Mayor Cartwright. Roll call 5, resolution 6. This is authorizes submission of a technical assistance and training application for $150,000 and commits matching funds of $30,000. Resolution number 6. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Ridley.
Second?
Second.
Second, Mayor.
Second again. Who was our second? Carter.
I'll second it, Mayor Brady.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments about resolution number 6? If not, roll call.
Greg Ridley,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Michael Brady,
Yes.
Jim Coppinger,
Yes.
David Jackson,
Yes.
John Gentry,
Yes.
Bill James,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
George Thacker,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright, yes. Andy Burke,
Yes.
Doug Collins,
Yes.
Dwayne Land. Motion passes.
Okay, resolution 7. This proposal is included in meeting packets for review. The Loan Review Committee has already recommended the following proposal. It will defer loan payments for all borrowers for 3 months beginning April 1st, both principal and interest. This recommendation comes in the form of a motion from the Loan Review Committee. We need a second.
Second, Ridley.
Thank you. Any questions or comments about resolution 7?
Mayor, this is Beth. The only thing that I would share with the board, this is obviously the right thing to do, and many of our borrowers have already called about suspending payments. As you all know, these are the riskiest borrowers throughout the entire region anyway. What this will do is we we'll probably then have to reach into a reserve fund in order to cover salaries for the 3-month period. I don't have a cost estimate of what those payments and interest represent, but I just want you all to be aware that we do use those funds to pay part of the salaries for the loan staff.
Beth, are we going to have any staff that's going to be able to help some of these companies with some of the packages coming down from the federal level that they may be able to?
Absolutely. I will tell you, Todd and Audra have been working probably 18-hour days already in trying to defer people to areas of assistance, and to also work with our local government partners with the city of Chattanooga that are trying to do some things, some atypical things in order to help small businesses survive this.
I know they're busy, but during their work, if they're able to summarize some of that, I think you've already sent one, that'd be wonderful.
Absolutely. We actually, Todd just presented it to me today. It's like the SBA guide for dummies on what's available, and this one loan relative to payroll is going to be very helpful to many of the businesses that have tried to keep employees on. It's pretty much loan forgiveness.
While we were here, I received a text from one of our bankers that SBA and things are referring people to them, and they said, we don't know what to do. You know, that they're telling
Well,
folks.
I will tell you then, okay, we'll have your bankers call us, because they must not have a SBA department.
Okay.
I can tell you, again, full disclosure, I sleep with the banker. So I'll tell you that they packaged 3 of these yesterday. The payroll loan can be up to $10 million, depending on what a company's payroll looks like, and it's only a 2-page application.
Okay.
Employers do have to keep. That's why they're starting to get these phone calls. I'll send the guide to you.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, any other questions? The quarterly reports, they're included in your packet that you can read for yourself.
Mayor, I don't know if we took a roll call vote. It was recommended, but you still need to vote on.
Oh, we didn't vote on 7. I'm sorry.
I don't think so.
Okay, roll call on resolution number 7.
Greg Ridley,
Yes.
Gary Davis,
Yes.
Michael Brady,
Yes.
Jim Coppinger,
Yes.
David Jackson,
Yes.
John Gibson,
Yes.
Bill James,
Yes.
Robbie Hatcher,
Yes.
George Thacker,
Yes.
Keith Cartwright, yes. Andy Burke,
yes,
Doug Collins,
Yes.
Wayne Lane. Okay, motion pass.
Resolution 7 passes. Chuck Hammonds, give us a brief review of capital grant funding for local governments.
Yes, sir. Many of you know the governor in his budget, he increased the amount of money from 100 million to counties and cities to 200 million. I know some of our staff have been calling around trying to get in touch with mayors, figuring out how they might want to spend that money. It has to be, we wish it had to be used on a capital project. I'm not sure what it can be spent on for, but we are trying to track the money. It will come through the comptroller's office. And the most important thing to remember is it will not be available until July 1st, when the start of the new budget.
Chuck, if I can ask one first, the 100 million, they spelled it out how it could be spent. And
Yes.
they implied that stays in place, but they're really not told about the second 100 million very much. I assume it's going to be divided the same way. So what we knew we were going to get originally would just be double.
That is correct. And I have a list of what everybody will get if you would like for me to send it out. It was actually published in the paper.
Did it double it then using the second amount in the paper?
Pretty much, yes, sir.
So it did, Mayor Davis, for normal counties, some of the economically distressed and at-risk counties, it's more than doubled. There's some sort of other multiplier in there that we've noticed. But you are correct. The first part of it is supposed to be critical infrastructure. The second part appears to be more flexible. There will be an application process, and our staff will work with those local governments that need our help to get that paperwork done and turned in as soon as that paperwork's available.
So you will be handling the paperwork for us if we need you to. As far as
Absolutely.
budget's concerned, I assume we will include a line for capital expenditures and a line for COVID health-related expenditures, and that would take care of it from the budget.
That would be my interpretation, but you know, I never want to usurp what the comptroller tells us.
Now, the comptroller will tell us way after his own deadline that says when we have to have budgets in. Now, I know what he'll do. We're needing to do budgets very soon. At least that's what until you or somebody tells me different, I'm going to have a line in there for capital projects offset with revenue from state, and I'm going to have a line for health COVID-19 related expenses offset with money from the state. And then if the amounts change or something, then we can amend it later, but we're going to have something in that budget before it goes to the commission. Does that sound correct to you? And then you will help us with the paperwork afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense? Does everyone, do you have a different perspective of how this will probably work as far as the budget's concerned? That's my hurry up part of the whole thing, is because we've got to get something in the budget. And then I've been told that development districts will help us with paperwork, treating it sort of like a grant, I guess you would say. I know we have to have resolutions
Yes,
of our commissions, and then at some point, I guess, approved from the state that that's approved expenditure.
Right.
And in the meantime, we'll learn more on the second half, I would assume.
Yes. That'd be my thought, Mayor.
Okay, good. All right.
Excuse me, Mayor, just Chuck, can you send that out to us?
Yes, sir.
Breakdown again, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. I will.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman. That's something to be excited about, except just knowing how to treat it at this point is kind of important. I'm actually moving things around in my budget requests over to some of these lines. So I'm counting on those numbers to be there, paying for them with state one-time money things. I've got several projects that will fit into that category. The health part, I'm not sure of, and maybe we'll have some more information on that. We've been bombarded with so much. I've told somebody the other day, my head is so full of information and so much intelligence, it's about to explode, and I don't know what I've learned in the last few weeks. But the budget is, our process is moving forward even with COVID-19, but that one area there I'm depending on for this additional revenue that I think will be there since their budget's approved at some point in the next budget cycle. Is that fairly correct, Beth, from what you know?
Yes, sir. I do believe the comptroller's office was starting trying to schedule some meetings with local governments, maybe 10 at a time on a teleconference. I think Spring City had shared with me that they were on one maybe earlier or late last week. So I do think we'll get some more guidance for sure.
And probably they will add 1,000 requirements in addition to what was in the bill that passed, I'm sure.
That is probably true, but we will help get you through those.
Okay, see the reports in our materials. Michelle Holt, do you have some updates from workforce? That's a big deal for us at this time, of course.
Yes, I do have some, Mr. Chairman. We are still operating with the AJCs on the limited capacity right now. Staff are still there. They are still open, just not open to seeing the public in and out every day through the centers. We are, with the new guidelines that came down yesterday, the document that was sent out last week will need to be updated as that just went through March 30th. So we will be extending that for a little bit longer. Hopefully we can get through this in the interim with no major changes, I guess, depending on how the spread is here. as to when we can return back to business as usual, I guess. We have received some additional funding opportunities to purchase laptops for staff to work remotely. As you all know, we did not have a large volume of laptops, and apparently not a lot of people did because there's a large backlog on those. We are trying to secure those for the staff that are operating under the contract. The Department of Labor has gotten laptops for the staff in the centers to be able to process claims. I think over the course of the last week, they have been able to get most of the staff that are in all of the AJCs that are the labor staff that work directly for Department of Labor trained to process claims. Some were newer, some had done it prior through their career, so they were able to do it much more quickly. I think they're continuing to work those and add capacity when they can. As I understand, they are trying to get them in a position where if they were to have to go to a work from home, solely work from home, they would be able to do that. I think getting 4G cards and such installed in their laptops and that sort of thing. I'll show you regional claims, and I'll send you all this link once the meeting's over. But this will go out to the state's website, which will show you the claims that have been filed. These numbers are released weekly. Of course, the numbers that you'll see here currently are numbers that are, I keep moving it.
Michelle, just hit share your screen.
Okay, I forgot to do that part, didn't I, Chad? Well, I don't know what happened there.
Well, if you can't bring up the screen, just give them the sheer numbers.
Well, and the numbers there that are on that screen, that's what I was going to say. The numbers that are there on that screen are not technically, those were through March 21st. So you're not going to see any of the new numbers until next week, is when you'll see the spike in the claims. This week and last week would be your larger numbers. Those will be released out on probably Friday or Saturday, and I will share that link with you also. You can view that from your anytime that you want to go out there and take a look at that number. The other thing that we're receiving is, of course, high call volume. We are trying to work through those as best we can. It's all hands on deck, and the American Job Center is trying to process those calls that are coming through. And then, of course, with this change, it's going to significantly impact the expenditures that we have and such. So we will be in continuous contact with the Department of Labor on those. So that's kind of where we are now. And it's just a day by day as to what we are able to effectively do with the limited capacity and being able to access technology. I do think that they are making improvements. But with that volume of claims that are coming in, we're just going to continue to see many, many issues.
So, Michelle, I didn't hear you provide the numbers to them that were released last week, but you might want to just provide that number and how many of them came out of our region. Do you have that?
Yes, it was about 5,000 total that were reported out last week out of our region. About 49 something, but that's much, much lower than what we know went in.
Yeah, and the system can pull reports, and we're not allowed to tell, but I think we saw that there's 143,000 claims statewide pending right now. Is that pretty accurate, Michelle?
Yes.
So that'll show you just what the increase in the volume has been. I think for you all, if you're talking to employers and they are going to do a layoff or even a temporary layoff, I'm talking about small to big, 2 or 3 people, 4 people, the employer can actually do a spreadsheet that is online at Jobs for TN on the unemployment page that will greatly expedite this process for all of their people that are being adversely impacted. Please encourage them to do that. That will eliminate a lot of paperwork for the individual. And if they have questions, Beth Keelan on our staff can kind of help them through that process.
Yes. that is correct.
Okay, Beth, moving on because we're close out of time for our conference call. Chris, give us an update on senior nutrition programs.
Okay, well, we're working every day to adapt to the changes. We're trying to reduce our contact with clients as much as possible, but making sure that they have the food, meals, or groceries that they need. So we've adjusted operations to accommodate for that. We have scheduled drop-off for meals, like at the nutrition sites, and for congregate clients, they can drive up and the groceries or meals are handed to them. And then for home delivered meals, when we do deliver, we're delivering a supply for 2 weeks. So we're doing whatever we can to minimize that daily contact with our clients, but also making sure that they have the supplies that they need.
And I've sent that schedule out to all of you all. I know you've been inundated with emails, but if you have any questions, I know Mark Cochran was told that, there were going to be no more meals at the McMinn County Senior Center. That was hot meals. So please don't hesitate if you have questions to call us. If you've missed that spreadsheet, we can keep you posted. No one will miss a meal. That's what we're committed to. I know Chris and her staff are even working with small restaurants to try to provide additional meals. So we're and delivering groceries. So just let us know.
Delivering groceries, does that include toilet paper?
Yes, sir, it does.
It does.
To be honest with you, there was a plat of toilet paper that showed up here at our back door. That was like gold. We literally had to hide it away so that the building wouldn't get broken into, but it was donated. But yes, it does include toilet paper and cleaning supplies. Yes,
all of our clients, when we're delivering, whether it's groceries or meals or a combination of both, and we're also delivering a combination of meals. They may be frozen, they may be shelf stable, but everybody got toilet paper.
Well, that's good to know.
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you all. Any other discussion about?
one other thing I will add, and then I know you all need to go. We are tracking the CARES package that will be coming down and the additional money. It will be very much like stimulus money, but as a staff, we're dedicated to making sure that you all get as much of that money as possible. You know our strategy. We want to be fair. So if we get 50% of that money for our region, the rest of the country can have the other 50%. But there is an additional $1.5 billion of EDA money. So hopefully some of our applications will be funded, like our one for Enterprise South and some of the others. There's an additional $5 billion worth of CDBG money coming down. I don't know if that means the state will just fund more applications than they normally do. A lot of rural development money, but we will make sure that we plug in opportunities for you all.
Okay, anyone else have anything that they need to share with us or ask?
I would encourage you all to look at where your technology voids were with regard to making people or enabling people to work from home. I fully anticipate that you're going to see not just funding for broadband connections, but you're going to see funding being made available to local governments to perhaps provide laptops to employees with mics and videos and other devices. So you might want to do a good inventory in your spare time and be ready with those requests.
Quick question. Any of the other counties use the company called Local Government for your accounts payable, payroll, and so forth?
Yes, Bledsoe County does.
I thought most of them did. Anyway, we can't figure out how to do accounts payable and payroll at home with local government. That's a biggie. Everybody wanting to go home, but they still want to get a paycheck.
You have to set up another computer with them, Gary.
And then you're gonna have to have a check printer at home. You're gonna have to have a signature machine at home.
True, true.
There's a lot of things there, and same thing with the purchasing, the PO people. A lot of unknowns there that we haven't figured out. I hope if any of you get it figured out, let me know, please, because that's a biggie with us. As you know, the solid waste board's been canceled for today. To be rescheduled at a later date. Our next meeting is June the 23rd, hopefully in person or somewhat. Anything else before we adjourn, Beth, or anyone?
No, thank you for your time. I know we're not top priority. Your people and your employees and your families should be, and just thoughts and prayers.
Thanks, everybody.
I agree. Thanks to everyone. Hang in there. Let's work together. Call each other. If you come up with an idea, someone else maybe not have thought of it, so share it, please. We appreciate everyone, and good luck. We'll get through this, and we'll still have a good summer ahead of us, I think. If there's nothing else before the board, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks.
Thank you.